Hi and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about memorized transactions. So we'll have a look at what a memorized transaction is, how to set it up, how to run it, to modify it if you need to delete it if you're not going to use it anymore, to audit it, and to control it. Now, the definition of a memorized transaction on NetSuite is any transaction that you want to recur every month or every week, for example, or every quarter. Now, this could be a vendor bill in most of cases. It could also be journal entries or even sales invoices. Now, memorized transaction will help you save time, by just eliminating the data entry. So instead of having to recreate a vendor bill or just look at your vendor bill list to try to find out who's been sending you their bills or not, then of course you can use memorized transactions. Now, how do you create a memorized transaction? Of course, we assume that you have the permission to create the memorized transactions and the according transaction itself. So, for example, for a vendor bill, you could go straight on the vendor bill and then just click on memorize, as you see on the print screen on the right here. So once you're on your bill, you can move your, like let's say you entered your vendor and all your expenses or your items. Instead of clicking on save, you'll move your mouse on action and then click on memorize. Now, the next step is entering the information on the memorized transaction itself. So once you've entered your vendor bill or your journal entry details, and then you go to memorize, then you'll be able to set the scheduling of this memorized transaction to run on. This could be on repeat every month, indefinitely, or it could be if you unmove the indefinite tick box here, you'll be able to say for the month that you want this recurring transaction, this memorized transaction to run on. Obviously, you've put a next date here, the next date you want it to be generated automatically. But you could also say that you want it to be, even though it is on the 30th of August, you could say that you want to override the transaction date and then put the next transaction date here at the bottom. You can also update the address or prices. For example, if your vendor might change addresses. Now, for example, if this was a customer invoice and you updated the prices, then you want to click on update prices. But for vendor bills, you're going to want to make sure every time you automatically create this vendor bill that you set the right reference on it. You verify the price, so the item's purchase price, and maybe even quantities, because maybe the quantities or the purchase price will change every month. Now, how do you run a memorized transaction? So once you've set it to schedule every month, you can set it to run automatically, so automatically create the transaction, or you want to run this yourself. Most companies use the manual run of their transactions. Why? Because then they don't have to remember which bill they have to go and look for, maybe vendor bills without a reference. And so to do this, you have to go to Transactions, Management, Enter Memorized Transaction. You select the memorized transaction you want to run and you click on Submit. Now, this is what it looks like. Once you go to the Enter Memorized Transaction page, you will see all your memorized transactions ready to be entered on the system. You click on the tick box here and you click on Submit, and it's going to create the memorized transaction. Now, if you want to edit a memorized transaction, you have to go to Transaction, Management, Enter Memorized Transaction List, and you're going to see your list of available memorized transactions. You just click on Edit, and then you just change the information, save it, and that will be that. It's not going to impact the previous generated transactions. It's just going to affect the next and upcoming memorized transactions. Now, how do you delete a memorized transaction in case you need to? Again, you go to Transaction Management, Enter Memorized Transaction List, and then you click on Edit on the memorized transaction you want to delete. and then you just click on delete. So this is what it looks like. So once you're on the memorized transaction you want to delete, you move your mouse on actions and you click on delete. It's not going to delete the previously created transactions from this memorized transaction. It's just going to prevent the memorized transaction to create new transactions. How do you audit a memorized transaction? Now, to see if it's gone through or not, you have to go to Transaction Management, enter Memorized Transactions, Status. And this is what it looks like. So on the top here, you see the menu. You have to go to Transaction Management, enter Memorized Transaction Status. And at the bottom, you will see all the memorized transactions that have been run and their status. So if there were any issues, you would see in the submission status maybe that there's an error. And if there was an error, you'd be able to click on the error here under the message column, and you'll be able to see what the error is, so you can modify the memorized transaction and try to run it again. Now, how do you control a memorized transaction just to make sure that you're not missing out on some of them, that you actually process them all? So we recommend setting up the dashboard for this. You could have a memorized transaction reminder per transaction type, but NetSuite already has a reminder, a standard reminder available for the dashboard's reminder section. So if you just go on the reminder, click on the three little dots, and then just add a standard reminder called Memorize Transactions Due. I would also recommend to click on Show if zero value. Okay, so this is it for today's video. I thank you for your time. As always, don't forget to leave a like or subscribe if you really enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you and goodbye.